My brother, this is something he's been waiting for, and he's probably spent more time thinking about it. For the rest of us, it's more a question of, okay, we have to shift the way we support.
Did you know? There are moments in the royal family that seem like mere coincidences, but they unravel into an underground battle no one could have foreseen. The day King Charles was unexpectedly hospitalized, the power vacuum in the monarchy quickly turned into a ruthless political chessboard. Camilla, the woman always suspected of harboring ambitions for the throne, suddenly made her move, positioning her granddaughter Eliza Lopes at the center, scheming to build a new face to replace the next generation. But standing against her is Princess Anne, the symbol of principle, and the Princess of Wales, Catherine, the public's beloved figure. On one side, cold calculation; on the other, steadfast integrity and justice. Amid a global whirlwind of fake news and leaked secrets, the question arises: will power be decided by cunning schemes, or will the truth be revealed by those who refuse to yield? Who will win in this fierce confrontation? Camilla with her boundless ambition, or Anne and Catherine with the truth on their side? Join us to uncover the full secrets in today's video. On September 27, 2025, Gatcombe Park welcomed Princess Anne with a gloomy afternoon, the air heavy with the damp scent of earth after a prolonged rain from the night before, and leaden clouds lingering over the Gloucestershire sky, as if determined to hold the entire atmosphere in an unrelenting weariness. The sleek black Range Rover rolled slowly down the gravel driveway leading to the estate, and when it stopped before the weathered steps that Anne had crossed thousands of times over decades, she sat still for a moment longer, her eyes lightly closed, trying to draw a deep breath to shake off the exhaustion weighing down from weeks of tension at Sandringham. In her memory, Sandringham had never felt so somber. Not because of the ancient hallways or the deep red brick of the building, but because of the steady hum of the ventilator echoing through the night, the anxious glances of the doctors, and the undeniable truth that her aging father, the king holding England's throne, was lying in a hospital bed, battling a body too frail to withstand the years. Anne, with all the resilient strength she had accumulated throughout her life, couldn't hide her fatigue. Each sleepless night by Charles's bedside was a night she quietly recalled the years gone by, when her brother had stood with her before the public, sharing ceremonies and responsibilities, and now reduced to a gaunt figure, entrusting his life to medical care. She returned to Gatcombe Park not for true rest, but to find a moment of solitude, a bit of private space before new storms arrived. For Anne knew better than anyone, a power vacuum in the dynasty was never a peaceful void. The servant opened the car door and Anne stepped out, her deep brown coat draping her shoulders, her gaze stern but tinged with weariness. She ascended the steps, preparing to push open the familiar wooden door, when an unfamiliar figure made her pause. On the threshold, right at the entrance, stood a young woman, slender in build, her hair neatly pinned up, sharp blue eyes, holding a small suitcase as if she had just arrived. She smiled, a smile attempting politeness but gleaming with unconcealed confidence, then bowed slightly. "Hello, Princess Anne," her clear voice rang out. "I'm Eliza Lopes. I hope I'm not disturbing you." Anne narrowed her eyes, her mind immediately searching through memories. Eliza Lopes, Camilla Parker Bowles's granddaughter, the child she had seen at vague ceremonies, never prominent enough to draw attention, but now standing before Gatcombe Park like someone chosen. Her presence at this moment, just days after Charles's hospitalization, could not be coincidence. I don't recall scheduling any meetings today, Anne replied, her voice calm but her gaze wary. What brings you here? Eliza smiled, a rehearsed smile practiced in front of a mirror, then stepped closer. Aunt Camilla, the Queen, sent me. She wants me to learn about royal culture, estate management, and charitable activities. I thought Gatcombe Park would be the ideal place to start. I promise I won't bother you much. In that instant, Anne felt her heartbeat sink like a drum, signaling an approaching storm. She knew Camilla never sent her granddaughter anywhere just for learning, and Gatcombe Park, Anne's private fortress, was never a suitable place for a training school. This wasn't chance, it was a chess move. Camilla was exploiting the power vacuum to insert a new piece, a youthful, modern one, but entirely under her control. Before Anne could respond, another voice echoed from behind, deep but laced with mockery. Eliza, I told you to wait for me before entering, but it seems you're too eager. Anne turned, and there was Camilla Parker Bowles in a dark coat, her face meticulously made up, her eyes flashing with pride. She approached, standing beside Eliza, placing a hand on her granddaughter's shoulder as if asserting ownership. Anne? Camilla said, her voice soft but sharp as a knife. I thought you'd be pleased to see a fresh young face, eager to learn and take on responsibilities. Eliza needs a role model, and you, always loyal and principled, are surely the perfect example. Anne maintained her composure, but her lips tightened. If Camilla thinks Gatcombe Park is the place to test new faces, then I'm afraid you've chosen the wrong time. This is my private home, not a political classroom. Camilla raised an eyebrow, a cold smile spreading. Wrong time? No, Anne. This is precisely the moment, when the country is worried about Charles's health, for the royal family to prove it has the strength to maintain stability, and Eliza, with her youth and determination, could be that image. The public needs new faces, don't you see? Anne remained silent, but her eyes fixed on Camilla. Behind those sweet words was a blatant scheme to eliminate Catherine, the woman beloved by the people, and insert Eliza in her place, creating a new symbol under Camilla's control. Every word from Camilla was like a blade, aimed straight at the honor and stability of the dynasty. Eliza, Anne turned to Camilla's granddaughter, her voice cold. You may stay one night, but tomorrow morning I'll arrange for you to return to London. Gatcombe is not the place to learn about power, and certainly not a place for others to use as a chessboard. Eliza flushed slightly, but managed to bow her head. When she looked up, her eyes flashed with a hint of arrogance inherited from the grandmother standing beside her. Camilla, instead of retorting, merely shrugged, her voice mocking. Anne, you're as rigid as ever. But rigidity isn't always synonymous with wisdom. I believe you'll come to see the value of new faces soon enough. Anne didn't reply. She turned and entered the house, but in her mind a storm had already formed. In the study, the golden lamplight cast shadows on stacks of unfinished files. Anne sat silently, her hand resting on the telephone. She knew Camilla was setting up a game, and Eliza was just the first pawn. If not stopped in time, the dynasty could be led by those with boundless ambition. She picked up the phone, calling a trusted confidant. Her voice was low but resolute. Have someone follow Eliza Lopes. Every move, every meeting, report to me immediately. And remember, absolute discretion. This isn't just family business. This is about the throne. On the other end, the confidant replied briefly, Yes, Princess. Anne set the phone down, her gaze lingering on the window frame, where the weak rays of the day's last light were spilling onto the familiar garden. A day meant for peaceful rest had ended before it began. An underground battle, ignited by the arrival of a young woman, was unfolding before her eyes, and Anne knew well, the one chosen at the wrong time would pay dearly. The night of September 28, 2025, Clarence House was enveloped in an unusual silence, its large windows shrouded in thick crimson velvet curtains, the long hallways almost devoid of light except for a few dim wall lamps, and the atmosphere thick like a chapel before a ceremony. In that space, in a small meeting room deep inside, once Charles's place for discussing national documents, now echoed the hoarse but icy voice of Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman who had spent half her life to secure a place on the throne and now, when it seemed within reach, still couldn't shake her unease. Before her lay a thick stack of documents, glossy paper, meticulously typed letters, each line of legal language arranged like bricks building a wall. But this wall wasn't to protect the dynasty, it was to overthrow and rebuild it as she desired. Camilla placed her hand on the first page, her fingers caressing the bold printed line. The will of Charles III, a forged will, but if stamped with the royal seal, it would become a destructive weapon against anyone who dared resist. Across from Camilla, Eliza Lopes sat upright, her youthful face alight with a mix of eagerness and anxiety. She flipped through the pages, her blue eyes scrutinizing every detail, occasionally pausing to edit a few words to make the will seem more legitimate. She spoke softly, but her voice was firm. "Grandmother, the appointment section is clear. I'll be listed as the Queen's Senior Communications Advisor. All press channels, media, and external information will be under my control. Catherine will be completely eliminated, explicitly noted as unfit to represent during the crisis period." Camilla smiled, a cold smile devoid of any grandmotherly warmth. "Good. Catherine must disappear. She's loved by the public too much, and as long as she's on stage, all attention will be on her. I need a different face, fresher, easier to control. And you, Eliza, are that face." She paused, pouring a glass of red wine, the light refracting through the deep liquid making her eyes gleam with unconcealed ambition. "But remember this well. Everything we're doing today only has value with the King's seal. Without the seal, this is just worthless paper. With the seal, it becomes a command." Eliza swallowed, nodding slightly. "The seal is kept in the private office at Buckingham, right, Grandmother?" "How can we get it without being detected? William and Anne, they're always vigilant." Camilla leaned in, whispering like a venomous oath. "I have someone inside, a security staff loyal to me more than to Charles. Tonight, he'll deliver the seal. You just need to bring it here. Once this seal is stamped, any resistance will be child's play." The air in the room grew thick, each word from Camilla adding fuel to the smoldering conspiracy. Eliza nodded again, but her eyes still held a touch of confusion, as if she realized stepping into this power game meant no turning back. In the dim hallway not far away, Thomas, the middle-aged butler who had been attached to Clarence House for over 30 years, stood quietly before a painting, dustcloth still in hand, but his ear pressed tightly to the slightly ajar door. He wasn't one for eavesdropping. His whole life he prided himself on discretion and absolute loyalty. But tonight, the fragments of words leaking through the crack had frozen him. "Forged will. Eliminate Catherine. Royal seal. His heart pounded, his hand clenching the cloth until his knuckles turned white. He knew if he walked away, pretending to hear nothing, he could perhaps continue living peacefully as a servant. But Thomas also knew what he'd just heard wasn't mere internal plotting. It was treason. Trembling, he pulled his old phone from his pocket, activated the recording mode, and placed it near the door crack. Camilla's voice came through clearly. "Catherine will be eliminated. Eliza will be the new face. We need the seal before morning." Each word like a knife, and Thomas knew this recording could save the entire dynasty. When the conversation in the room ended, Camilla and Eliza left. Thomas hurriedly grabbed his phone, his heart still racing as if it might burst. He had no time to think much. Instinct told him he must send this recording to the one person tough enough to confront Camilla, Princess Anne. He composed a short message, sending it to one of Anne's trusted aides. Urgent. For the princess. Evidence of treason. Attached was the recording. His hand shook as he hit send. But when the notification appeared that the message had been delivered, he sighed, feeling the burden lift somewhat from his shoulders. Meanwhile, at Buckingham, Eliza quietly entered the hallway leading to the king's private office. The night sky enveloped outside, the darkness thick, and each footstep echoed like a curse. In a dark corner, Harold, the security guard Camilla mentioned, appeared, tall and gaunt, his face hollow. He pulled out a small wooden box, handing it to Eliza. "The seal is here. Be careful. If discovered, we're both done for." Eliza took the box, nodded, hiding it in her coat. She turned away quickly, unaware that another pair of eyes was watching from afar, a cleaning staff loyal to William, who had managed to capture the moment on his phone. That night, at Gatcombe Park, Anne was sitting in her study when her personal aide entered, face urgent. "Princess, we've just received a recording. Source from Clarence House." Anne set down her teacup, opened the audio file. Camilla's voice echoed through the speaker. "The will grant me absolute power. Catherine will be eliminated. Eliza will be the new face." Those words alone were enough to make Anne feel like a knife twisting in her heart. She remained silent for a long while, her eyes flashing with suppressed fury. When the recording ended, Anne nodded slightly, her voice deep and firm. "Camilla has gone too far. This is no longer a conspiracy. This is treason." She stood, picking up the phone, turning to the aide. "Prepare for an emergency meeting and ensure William is informed. I won't let this truth be buried." Meanwhile, at Buckingham, Eliza quietly entered the hallway leading to the king's private office. The night sky enveloped outside, the darkness thick, and each footstep echoed like a curse. In a dark corner, Harold, the security guard Camilla mentioned, appeared, tall and gaunt, his face hollow. He pulled out a small wooden box, handing it to Eliza. "The seal is here. Be careful. If discovered, we're both done for." Eliza took the box, nodded, hiding it in her coat. She turned away quickly, unaware that another pair of eyes was watching from afar. A cleaning staff loyal to William, who had managed to capture the moment on his phone. That night, at Gatcombe Park, Anne was sitting in her study when her personal aide entered, face urgent. "Princess, we've just received a recording. Source from Clarence House." Anne set down her teacup, opened the audio file. Camilla's voice echoed through the speaker. "The will grant me absolute power. Catherine will be eliminated. Eliza will be the new face. Those words alone were enough to make Anne feel like a knife twisting in her heart. She remained silent for a long while, her eyes flashing with suppressed fury. When the recording ended, Anne nodded slightly, her voice deep and firm. Camilla has gone too far. This is no longer a conspiracy. This is treason. She stood, picking up the phone, turning to the aide. Prepare on the morning of September 30th, 2025, within just a few hours, Britain's political media atmosphere transformed into an unprecedented storm. On the front page of The Guardian, a sensational headline appeared like a political bomb. Leaked new will of King Charles III. Camilla takes absolute power. The article was presented as an investigative document, accompanied by images of a text stamped with the royal seal, claiming that if Charles could no longer reign, all power and dynastic management roles would transfer directly to Camilla, while Eliza Lopes, her granddaughter, was designated as Senior Communications Advisor. More cruelly, Catherine, the woman admired by the public as the flag of the new generation, was explicitly noted as unfit to represent the nation during the crisis period. The article was immediately picked up by a slew of international news outlets. BBC aired a special bulletin during prime time. CNN ran with the headline, "Shocking Will of King Charles. Catherine out. Camilla in." Sky News opened a live analysis segment, and social media exploded with hashtags like Royal Will, Long Live Camilla. The chaotic information flow spread like wildfire in dry woods. Within hours, from London to New York, Paris to Sydney, people were discussing a royal coup no one had imagined. At Onmer Hall, in the quiet Norfolk home, William was awakened by the incessant ringing of his phone. He picked it up, his sleepy eyes immediately tensing as he read the first message. Catherine, just getting out of bed, caught her husband's heavy gaze. "What's wrong, William?" she asked, her voice slightly trembling. He handed her the phone. On the screen was the article with its glaring red headline. Catherine skimmed it, then froze. Each word carved deeply into her self-respect. Removed from role. Unfit. Camilla, absolute power. She set the phone down, her hand shaking, then suddenly stood, her voice choked with indignation. "This is forged. This is a blatant insult. They wouldn't dare do this to me." William approached, gripping her shoulders tightly, trying to stay calm though he was boiling inside. "I know. This isn't Father's will, but we can't stay silent. We must return to Windsor immediately. I'll call Anne, the Lord Chamberlain. This is an attack, and we have to face it right now." Meanwhile, at Gatcombe Park, Anne had already read the article. She wasn't shocked, for after the recording Thomas sent, she knew Camilla wouldn't stop. But seeing the bold letters on the page, along with the image of the stolen seal, Anne understood Camilla had played her highest card, unleashing fake news to the public, turning it into reality in the media before the royal family could react. She set down her teacup, her eyes flashing with determination. "Prepare the car. I must go to Buckingham and inform William and Catherine. This is no longer rumor. This is war." That afternoon at Buckingham Palace, an emergency meeting was convened in a sealed room with the most important figures present. Princess Anne at the head of the table, her face stern like a general. Beside her were William and Catherine, both having just returned from Norfolk with visible fatigue and fury. The Lord Chamberlain and a few close advisers stood behind. The door opened, and Camilla entered, followed by Eliza Lopes, both in dark attire, their faces not hiding confidence. Camilla approached, pulled out a chair, and sat down nonchalantly, speaking as if everything was under control. I think no further explanation is needed. Everyone has read the article. This is the moment for us to act as a united front. The public needs leadership, and I've been designated to shoulder it. The atmosphere exploded immediately. William slammed his hand on the table, his voice booming. Designated? By a forged document, you dare call that truth? My father isn't dead, hasn't signed any such will. This is betrayal, Camilla. Catherine, though trying to restrain herself, couldn't avoid the bitterness. I'm eliminated with a cheap sentence, labeled unfit, while I've stood before the public, handled hundreds of events, never shirking responsibility. You think you can erase me with a piece of paper? Camilla smirked, her eyes cold. Catherine, sometimes the truth is hard to accept. You're loved, but being loved doesn't mean leadership ability. The royal family needs those strong enough to survive crises, and you simply don't have enough. Anne slammed her hand on the table, her voice as firm as a sword. Enough, Camilla. You're staging a play based on deception. Don't confuse your ambition with legitimacy. You want to rule through an inexperienced granddaughter while King Charles is still alive? This is blatant treason. Eliza, silent until now, finally spoke, her voice firm but slightly trembling. Princess Anne, you're too conservative. I'm not a pawn. I believe I can bring new life to the dynasty, a youthful image that your generation can't provide. Anne pierced Eliza with her gaze, sharp as steel. You're just a shadow Camilla has set up, and you'll be swept away with this deceit. The air grew stifling, words flying like knives thrown directly at each other. Camilla stood abruptly, pointing at Anne. You've always opposed me, always jealous since the day I entered this family. You don't want me to exist, but now I'm the queen, and you can't change that. Anne stood, facing her directly, her voice deep like a bronze bell. A queen never relies on forged papers. You're just a usurper, Camilla, and history will expose you as such. William interjected, his voice harsh. You insulted my mother with your presence, and now you insult my wife with a fake will. Do you want to tear this royal family apart? Catherine, eyes red but voice firm, directed straight at Camilla. You say I'm unfit, but your ability is only deception and manipulation. If this is how you plan to build the future, it's not England's future. The entire room shook with clashing anger, a rare verbal battle in court history, where each word was like a fired bullet, no longer restrained by etiquette. When the arguing reached its peak, Anne suddenly raised her hand, signaling silence. Her voice echoed, resounding, I have proof. The recording from Clarence House, where you, Camilla, and Eliza discussed the forged will, plotting to eliminate Catherine. I've heard it, I've kept it, and I'll expose it to the whole world. The room froze. Camilla's face paled momentarily, her eyes flashing panic before hiding it. Eliza stiffened, her hands gripping the table edge. Anne continued, her voice like a declaration of war. I won't announce it here, because this truth needs to be brought to public light, before the media and the entire nation. A press conference at Buckingham will be held, and there, the deceit will end. Camilla tried to regain composure, snarling. You'll destroy the royal family with this dirty trick, Anne. Anne didn't blink, replying, No, Camilla. You're the one destroying the royal family. I'm just bringing the truth to light. The meeting ended in heavy silence, but the storm was just beginning. Outside Buckingham, Hundreds of reporters had gathered, the scent of a media crisis rising sharply. And inside, the central figures understood. In just a few days, the entire dynasty would face a raw truth that could no longer be hidden. On October 1st, 2025, Buckingham Palace took on an unusual appearance. The large wooden doors opened and three central figures emerged. Princess Anne leading the way, her posture resolute in a simple yet authoritative navy suit. Right behind her was Prince William, his face as hard as carved stone, and beside him Catherine, in an elegant dark dress, her eyes bright but calm, each step as if carrying the public's expectations on her shoulders. The press hall fell instantly silent, cameras panning to follow every movement. Anne stepped to the podium, her gaze sweeping the room, then her voice resonated. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we stand before you not to explain, but to clarify a truth that has been distorted and exploited." 3 days ago, several media outlets published what they called the new will of King Charles III, claiming all power would transfer to Queen Camilla, while the Princess of Wales, Catherine, was removed from her national representation role. I affirm before the entire British people and the international community that document is forged. Murmurs arose, but Anne didn't pause. She signaled the technician, and the large screen behind lit up. Camilla's voice echoed through the speakers, clear and icy. "The will grant me absolute power. Catherine will be eliminated. Eliza will be the new face." When the recording ended, Anne looked straight at the crowd. "This is irrefutable evidence of a conspiracy to forge a will and usurp power. This is not an act to protect the royal family, but a stab in the back to the throne and the British people. The royal family is not built on lies, and today we bring the truth to light." The noise erupted, reporters shouting questions, but Anne merely raised her hand, then stepped back. William approached the podium, his voice deep and steady, his eyes burning with fury but maintaining the discipline of an heir. "In the past few days, our family has faced turmoil, but we never lost the truth. My father, King Charles III, though in poor health, wishes to address the nation directly. Please." He signaled, and the screen switched scenes. In the frame was a simple room at Sandringham, soft light illuminating Charles's gaunt face. He sat in an armchair, his eyes hollow but resolute, the royal flag behind him. The hall fell silent, all cameras focused on the screen. Charles began speaking, his voice weak but clear, each word emphasized with his remaining strength. "My dear subjects and friends around the world, I affirm, no such will exists as reported in the press. That document is forged, the product of a betraying conspiracy. I am still your sovereign, and while alive, I will not allow anyone to exploit my name to destroy the dynasty. As king, I declare the immediate revocation of all titles, roles, and royal privileges of Camilla Parker Bowles and Eliza Lopes." Those words thundered like lightning in the room. Reporters scrambled to take notes, cameras flashing non-stop, while applause echoed from the back of the hall. Charles took a deep breath, then concluded, "The royal family will continue, not based on deceit but on trust and loyalty." The screen went dark, but the impact lingered like an indelible indictment. In that moment, Catherine stepped to the podium. All cameras focused on her, the woman once eliminated in the forged document, now appearing as the symbol of justice. She gripped the microphone, her voice clear but decisive. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know the past few days have been a shock, not just for my family, but for the entire nation. I was removed by a lie, but the truth cannot be buried. Today, I stand here to say, the people's trust is the true will of the dynasty. The royal family exists not for personal ambition, but for unity and service to the country. Applause thundered, reporters even standing to film. Catherine paused, her eyes shining with determination. We will continue to serve the people with loyalty and honor. And we affirm, no one can steal the truth. Outside the palace, thousands of people gathered, watching on large screens. When the recording played, when Charles's declaration rang out, the crowd erupted in chants. Truth for the crown. Banners were raised high. We stand with Catherine, Anne, the shield of the crown. Public opinion reversed in an instant. From initial doubts, now the full force of the public surged to one side, against Camilla and Eliza. International newspapers updated immediately. The Times ran the headline, "The lie exposed, Camilla falls," while CNN commented, "One of the fastest falls in modern royal history." At Clarence House, Camilla and Eliza sat frozen before the screen. Camilla gripped the armrest tightly, her knuckles white, her eyes no longer hiding the horror. Eliza, her face pale, whispered, They have the recording." Camilla screamed, her voice hoarse. "Who betrayed me? Who dared?" But she herself understood it was too late. Charles's decision, publicized before millions, was a decisive slash cutting off all paths back. The press conference ended amid resounding applause. Anne, William, and Catherine walked out together, none smiling, but their eyes held pride. On screens worldwide, the image of the three standing together became a symbol, a dynasty enduring through truth and loyalty, unyielding to deceit. Clarence House, once seen as the symbol of unity in the new reign, now became the site of an unprecedented scene. Hundreds of people gathered at the gates, holding high banners, chanting demands for justice, and prepared with tomatoes and eggs, like a public verdict for the woman who once claimed to be the center of the throne. When the iron gates opened, Camilla Parker Bowles appeared, beside her Eliza Lopes, both in dark clothing, faces hidden behind sunglasses, walking hastily as if to avoid the crowd's gaze. International media unanimously labeled her with harsh terms: the betrayer queen, the false regent. Newspapers that once praised Camilla now turned their backs, describing her as the classic example of blind ambition, using schemes to seize power but ultimately self-destructing. Eliza Lopes, once introduced as the youthful generation of the royal family, was now branded pawn of betrayal. In stark contrast to that downfall, Catherine appeared before the public just 3 days after the press conference at a charity event in London for children with cancer. In her short speech, Catherine said only, "We may stumble because of lies, but we never fall when we hold on to the truth. And I promise my family will always stand with the British people, not through deception, but through trust and service." Those simple yet resonant words became the main headline for BBC, Sky News, and even the New York Times. The unquenchable flame. Catherine affirms royal unity. What do you think about Camilla's bold but ambitious actions? Was it survival instinct in the royal family, or unforgivable betrayal? What lesson does this story leave you about the power of truth, trust, and integrity in a dynasty full of turmoil? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.